Amen. First thing, we're going to have the סיום of Golus. We have now the honor to make a סיום on זרעים, נסחולה, עבודה, הרב החסיד, הרב שמואל שיחיה, שניאור, וחושב וגבוהים, חושב ומחנכים ונוצר קהילה. He's going to make the סיום. Following the סיום, there will be a shiur with Harav HaChosid, Harav Sholem Doiver HaKohen, to give us a shiur in the Maimer of the Rebbe, Tziyah B'Mishpat Yipodeh Tov Shin Lamed Vov. Everybody is asked to please pay attention to Shmuli.
Okay, so first you do the סיום. First that's cool. First you say the Vart. Okay, Gemachem the Kitzah because the Shir. So we have to get moving. So the last halacha in Hilchas Shemitah V'Yovel, Perek Yud Gimel. To read the whole halacha? To read the whole one, yeah. Okay. V'lo shevet leil vad elakol ish v'ish mikol boy elam asher not varucha oisei v'vinim adoy libad l'amid nefsham l'shar s'lo dil das Hashem. Not only it's anyone who wants to separate themselves to serve Hashem l'dat v'halach yashar k'mei shasal elikim uparak me'al tzavara oil ha'cheshbon it's a ram asher bikshub b'nei adam, and he took off all of the whole oil of the world. How he's in his kadesh kodesh kadashim, he becomes holy of holies. V'yi Hashem chelkim nachalasi la'olam u'la'ol me'elamim v'yizkir le'ba'olam hazeh davar ha'masik like v'shzacha l'kayanim and levim, and he's going to get and be zoicha like the kayanim and levim. Hari David oimer Hashem and chelki v'koisi ata toimich goyrali. So there's a lot to speak about the last halacha, but I didn't prepare the last halacha. Okay, so I didn't prepare the last. What should I do? Okay, good. So it's interesting. There's a Sicha the Rebbe Chilik Yud Zayin, where the Rebbe goes through and speaks that the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos, the Rambam goes through the whole order of Seder Zra'im. And basically it goes brachas, peah, demai, kilayim. But the main part that we're going to talk about is it goes peah, then goes kilayim. And the Rambam explains the whole in the Pirush HaMishnayos in the Akdama, he explains the whole order of the Sedarim. So he explains also why the order goes in that way. So he explains it's based on the pasuk. So first goes peah in the pasuk, and then goes kilayim, and that's the order. So it's a little bit interesting that when you come to the Rambam in Sefer Yad HaChazaka, the order of halachas goes kilayim first. The Rambam explains the whole thing that peah comes first because that's the order of the pasuk, and then when it comes in the Sefer Rambam, he puts kilayim first, and then goes matanas aniyim, and then goes the next one trumas maestros, then goes shmita, and then goes yovel. So the Rebbe asks, why exactly is that if the Rambam goes the whole thing that was based on the order of the pasuk, why in the Rambam himself in the halachas does he go differently? So the Rebbe gives two very nice answers. And the first one the Rebbe says is like this, says that it goes according to the order Seder HaChaim, that the Rambam in Yad HaChazaka goes according to the order how it works. The first thing you do when you come to a field is you plant. The first halacha that you encounter when you plant is kilayim. That how do you plant? You can't plant kilayim. Then after you plant, then you start cutting. You have to leave peah. Then after you make your pile, the miruach, then there's truma, there's meiser, and then after 6 years of the whole process, then comes shemitah, and then after 50 years goes yovel. It's a beautiful answer. Now, in this answer, the Rebbe addresses why it goes in this order, but it doesn't really explain the difference between Mishnayos and Mishnayos, which goes based on the pasuk, and why here it goes in the Seder HaChaim. So the Rebbe gives another answer, more al pi pnimius hanyanim, why the order goes like this. And the Kitzer, what the Rebbe basically explains is that there's three types of kilayim. There's kilayim in shana, in years. There's kilayim in nefesh, and then there's kilayim in the world. There's olam shana nefesh. So there's three types of kilayim. So everything in the world, it starts off beruchnius, and from there it's mishtalshel, and it comes down begashmius. So first there's the Kilayim Beruchnias. What's Kilayim Beruchnias? Kilayim Beruchnias is the idea that we find that Be'echad Ba'adar, they would remind everyone about the Shkolim. And the idea was, because you can't mix the Karbanis from one year for the other year. And the Rebbe explains that's the idea of Kilayim. There's a different Avodah every single year, and you give the Machzah Shekel of different years. And the Karbanis, in a Ruchniistic Indian, there's this idea of Kilayim, you can't mix. And that's the idea of Kilayim Beruchnias. And from there it's Nishtalshal, and then it comes up, and then it comes down in this world that physically you can't plant Kilayim. Now where does the Rebbe see that? Because it says, Be'echad ma'adar mashmiin al ashkalim vala Kilayim. And the Rebbe says, L'chera Kilayim is a much stricter Isser. Should have been first. So why is it first al ashkalim? Because Shkalim represents Kilayim Beruchnias. And the Rebbe basically follows that through and explains that if you look at the last halacha, really I should have been doing, now that I did it now, I should have been doing the last one, Afla and Zra'im, because this is the end of Afla and the beginning of Zra'im, but it's okay, listen. This is a long time in coming, like 3 Siyumim since Nisan. Okay, so in the last Perik Shmini of Hilchas of Afla, Erchin V'charamim, it talks about B'chamisha Ba'asar Ba'adar, based in Niftim L'chapish Livdik Al Tzarech Tzibur V'Alanyani Hekdeshes. So basically it talks about this idea that when a person, it talks about this idea that Peruchnias, Beis Din would go out and remind people that they have to like separate the Shkolim and make sure all the hekdesh, everything was good. And then if you go to the last halacha of Hafla, the last halacha of Hafla continues and says that La'olam la'yakdish adam v'layachrim kol nechasav. Don't give everything away. What's that idea? Also, you can't do kilayim. There's a part for your avodas Hashem, what you need to use for your family. Then there's a part for hekdesh, and that's the idea that Beruchnias, there's this idea of kilayim. And therefore, because the Rambam just finished in Hafla, he finished the Kilayim Beruchnias, so right away, he continues in the next Sefer Zra'im, it's Nishtalshal, and it continues with Kilayim Begashmias, that when you plant, so again, Hafla finishes with Kilayim Beruchnias, that you have to make sure the Shkolim go out and you do the right year, that whole idea. And then it finishes off with, don't give all your money away, because there's money for Hashem, there's money for you, there's money for this, money for that, and then goes right away, Hilchas Kilayim Gashmias, that you literally, when you plant, you can't, and that's the Ishtalshlus in a physical manner, how this comes out. And what's very interesting is, so then a person might come and say, okay, since it's my money, I shouldn't give it away. So comes the Rambam right away after Kilayim, and what's his next halacha? Matnas Aniyim. No, there's tzedakah. You got to give this much, you got to give that much. So right away, don't get so attached to your money. And right away goes Hilchas Matnas Aniyim. Now, just it's getting a little bit. This was supposed to be a kitzer, as they all say, but just to finish off one little point, to which we started with the big question: why is in Mishnayos is it different, and in the pasuk why is it different? So we just explained that the Rambam set it up that in the end of Hafla is Kilayim Beruchnias. And then Kilayim Begashmias is in Seder Zra'im. And that follows. But in the pasuk you don't have that. So what's Kilayim Beruchnias? Peah. The idea of Peah is Kilayim Beruchnias. That is a certain part of your field for you, and there's a certain part for the poor person. So in the pasuk, the same idea that the Rambam does here in his Sefer is also done in the pasuk, just with a different way, through Peah. That Peah is the idea that there's a part that belongs to the poor person, the part that belongs to you, and then goes Kilayim Begashmias. When you're physically planting, you shouldn't mix. So that's the end of. Any questions? Questions? No questions. Okay. Now we go to Avodah. And you do the Aschol and Avodah. What? In Yana Diyama. Yeah, in Yana Diyama. And okay, so Perik Aleph, Halacha Aleph, Mitzvah Selas is Bayis Lashem Muchan Liyas Makrivim Baya Karbanes V'chayim Olav Shalish Pam Hashana Shnemer Ba'asli Migdosh K'fain Esbarish B'Torah Mishkan Shal Moshe Ben Avayil Visha Shnemer Kilevas Mad Atal Hamnucha Bel Hanachla. So again here, Mitzvah Selas is Bayis Muchan Bayis Lashem. What is the Beis Hamikdash for? But that's not what I prepared. But I think my time's up anyways, right? Yeah, good. Shkayach, good.
Yeah.
Very nice. Excellent. All right. Thank you.